can you make the title in the hero section much larger? Perfect. In this tutorial, you will learn how to use GPTScript to build your very own web developer assistant. You can start the web developer assistant with an empty HTML document and instruct it to build a website piece by piece. You will be able to see a responsive preview of the website as well as getting the full source code. First, we will set up the basics of the front end we are going to use in this tutorial. Then we will build the GPTScript and keep making it even more advanced by adding image generation. The front end will be built with Flask and Tailwind CSS. The Flask part will only be around 30 lines and I will explain everything in detail. So if you are new to Flask, you should still be able to follow along. Setting up the front end. Begin by creating a folder somewhere on your computer and open up this folder in a terminal. Create a new file inside this called requirements.txt and add the following contents to it. So if I just open up Visual Studio Code, I can create a new folder called web developer, and then in here I create one more file called requirements.txt. In here add Flask, set the default version to 2.0.1 and also one package called Werkzeug. I think this is Deutsch for tool, version 2.2.2. And Flask is the web framework we are using, and Werkzeug is the Python library for handling URLs in Flask. So let's save this now, and if you have pip on your computer, you can install it simply by just saying pip install -r requirements.txt, but maybe you don't have pip and you need a virtual environment. So let's go into the folder called web developer, and I want to create a virtual environment, and I do that by saying python 3-m venv env. When this is done, I can activate it by saying source env bin activate. Now you can see here the name of the environment is before my username. Next I can run the pip command, so pip install -r, because we want to read from a file called requirements.txt and hit enter. And then this will install the newest version of, version 2.0.1 of Flask and a few dependencies that Flask has, and also the current version that we specified for Werkzeug. And you can for example see Jinja here, which is a templating language we are going to use. Okay, so let's go back to Visual Studio Code and start working on the Flask app. So in this web developer folder, we created one more file called app.py. Okay, so then we can add a little bit of content here. First we import something called subprocess. This is built into Python, and also OS. So import OS. This is used to read files from the system. Next we need to import a little bit from Flask. So from Flask import Flask, and we also need to import request, render template, send file, and redirect. I think that is everything we need there. Now we can set up the Flask app by saying app equals Flask and just say name. Next we can set up the base directory, so we have a point to this web developer folder. So base _dir equals os.path.dir name parentheses os.path.abs path, and then we fill in file here. So now Python will find this for us. Next I want to set up a script path to the assistant we are going to build. So script _path equals os.path.join, and then we use this base dir for base directory and append assistant.gpt. Then we just need to check if this is run from the command line, and we do that by saying if name equals __main __, and if so we say app.run and set debug to true, so that we have some output in the console. So we can save this now and try to run this, so we can just see what happens. So in here I can say python app.py. So now this was supposed to start, so I can open up this in the browser. It just says not found because we haven't added any routes yet. So we can go back and create the route for the front page. So below here and above this we say app, so at app.route, and when the URL is / which is the front page, then we want to accept this method, and the only method we want to get here is get, because we don't want to accept any post here. Then create a function called index, def index. Next we use the render template from Flask to just render a simple template. So return a render template, pass in index.html. So this do not auto reload, I think. Can try to refresh. Yes, it actually did work with auto reload. But now we get a new error, template not found. Flask automatically look for a folder called templates. So in here we can say templates, and in there one more file called index.html. So if I save now, refresh, it's blank because we didn't add anything to the template. Okay, so I've prepared a little template for us. First, I just used the starter template for Tailwind CSS, which is this doc type and a simple head and a body. The body is set to have a background of BG Slate 800, so there is a dark gray color. And on the top of the screen we have a nav with class py8, which gives some space above and below the content, px12, which adds spacing on each of the sides, and we set the background color to be even darker than body. Below the menu we have a main element where we have the same spacing as the menu, and in there we begin with a form. This form is supposed to be used to execute commands or tell the web developer assistant what we want to run. So we have the method post, we set the action to be /execute_command, which we will come back to soon. We add some spacing below this form, and each of the elements in this form should have some space between them. In the form we have a div and a label, which just says command, and the command is connected to this text area where we just give it a name of command and some classes to style it. Below this text area we have a button to submit the form, and then below the form we have a HR just to separate the form and the content, and then below here we have a div which sets up a grid. So we have one side of the grid with HTML content we are going to see that is being generated, and one iframe on the right side which will give us a preview of the content we are creating. So as you can see here, this looks for a file called index.html. We can just create it so we have it. So in this web developer here, you can see index.html. It can just be blank for now. Just know that this is what our developer assistant will be using, and this is the template that we are showing. So if we save now, go back to the browser and refresh, you will see the navigation bar up here, the command line interface where we talk to the developer assistant. This is the HTML content that the assistant will generate, and this should be a preview. I see here that we couldn't find index.html. Why couldn't that be found? Maybe we need to do a little bit more. Yes, anyway, I will come back to that very soon. Hopefully you have seen Tailwind CSS in action before. And the design isn't very complicated, and it's just meant to provide us with a simple playground where we can give a background. The design isn't very complicated, and it's just meant to provide us with a simple playground where we can give the backend a command, and we will see the HTML we have generated in the text area and a preview on the right side. So we have just tested now that this isn't working because we get an error in the iframe. So let's fix that before we continue. To continue, we need to add one more route and use Flask to just serve this index.html as a sort of static file for us. So here you can say app.route/index.html, and when this route is accessed, you can say def index_html return, and here we use the send file function from up here we were imported, and we want to serve the file called index.html, and that is this one. And then we just need to set the MIME type so that the front end understands what this is. So MIME type text/html and save. So that did now restart, and if I refresh, you can see that this is empty. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have the front end, we can start working on GPTScript. So let's jump to the terminal and split this window into two. Then I'd like to go into CD documents and find my folder, GPTScript and web developer. The first thing we need to do is to install the GPTScript CLI. On Mac you can use brew, so brew install GPTScript-ai/tap/GPTScript. I have already installed it, so I don't need to do that. If you're on Windows, you can just win-get install and then GPTScript-ai.gptscript. You can also find more information about this if you just Google. If you go to github.com/gptscript-ai/gptscript. So here you should see a full example of how to install and get started. Okay, so back to the command line. You need to specify an OpenAI API key here. You can get this one by just going to platform.openai.com/API keys. Then we need to export this by saying export OpenAI _API _key equals and then my key. Click that and hit enter. So now this should be ready to go. Before you start running the commands for GPTScript, it might be smart to take a look at the price list. You can find the price list at openai.com/pricing. Using OpenAI API is not free, but you do not Using OpenAI's API is not free, but you do not pay for more than you actually use. The script you are building in this tutorial will be using a language model called GPT-4 Turbo and an image model called DALL-E 3. Per image we are spending around 12 cents per image and a few cents for the rest. This can vary a little bit based on what you are actually sending to the GPTScript, how long the texts are, etc. Just take a good look at the price list to familiarize yourself with them. Okay, head back to Visual Studio Code and we can begin with the assistant script. So in the web developer folder, we create one assistant.gpt. GPT is how we create GPTScript. Then we need to first specify which tools our script will be using. So tools, sys.read and sys.write. Because we're going to read from the system, we're going to write to the system. We're going to read the index.html file, analyze it, and write to it again. Then we can add this description. So a coding assistant for building websites. We also want to accept an argument because we want to get the command from here and put it into the script. So args : command. Command is then the name of the argument. The command a user gives to build and modify the website. Then below here we are telling this script what it actually should do and how to behave. So you can tell the script that you are a professional web developer and designer. You are going to be an assistant for the user. Go to the next line. When you are given a command, when you are given a command, open up index.html, analyze it, and modify it, and save. So this is actually how simple a GPTScript can be, and when you see this in action you will understand how cool this actually is. Next we need to go back to the Flask app and create a route for handling the form submission and talking to the backend. So we need to create one more route, so app.route, and when this goes to execute command, which we have from here, then we also just want to specify that we are only accepting post requests here. Def execute command, and in here we need to get the command from the form, and we do it by saying command equals request.form.get command, and then we need to talk to the script, and we do that by saying answer equals subprocess.popen parentheses, and here I want to add the f before these ticks because we want to put variables in here. And to call the assistant, we say GPTScript, pass in the the script path, set the command here to be command. So that's how easy we can call this. Now we just need to read what we are getting back. So before we close these parentheses, we say shell equals true because we are wanting to use this as a shell. And we need to set something called std out. So this is the standard output, and we want to read this back to this variable called answer. So std out equals subprocess.pipe with capital letters. So we pipe everything in there. Then after we have closed this, we can say std out.read. Then we just need to redirect the user back to the front page. Return, redirect. You want to redirect to / answer. So we set an argument in the URL. And in here we can say plus answer.decode. So this is just regular text, and that's not something we can insert in the URL. That's why we call decode, to make this URL friendly. So we can save this. And before we test this, I just want to do a little change to the front page or the index as well. So I want to get this argument here into a variable, answer equals request.args.get answer, and default this to be empty. And to make this available in the front end, I can append it here, answer equals answer. So now this is available as a variable in the template. We can also read the contents of this so that you can show this in the text area, so it's easy to see what we have generated. So with open ./index.html, and we just want to read this, and we want to read this as a template underscore file, and then we can say content equals template file.read. If we just indent this into here, then we get this content here, and we can append it here, content equals content. So now all of this should be available in the template. Next, we can go back to the template before we test this, and instead of showing HTML content hard-coded like that, we can just say content. So then we print everything in there, and here we can say if answer, so if there is anything in the URL and we want to show a little bit more HTML, we can add one more HR and p class py-4 text gray 4 or 300, so that you can see the answer we get from the GPTScript answer. Save. So let's see that there are no errors. No. Now we can go to Chrome, refresh this, no content, no content. Then we can start to give a command to the GPTScript. Can you add a menu at the top of the screen with the name GPTScript on the left side. Submit. Okay, that did not work. So we posted to this, we got to 302. Can you see here that the openai key that I set over here was actually supposed to be set here. So I can copy this, paste it, start the command again, and we can try again. Can you add a menu at the top of the screen and put the name GPTScript on the left side? Submit. So now it's taking a little more while, and go back here. You can see that nothing happens because now this script is running in the background. So let's just wait a few seconds and see what we get. Yes, here you can see I've added the menu at the top of the screen with the name GPTScript on the left side. Here we can also see the HTML that the user or the assistant generated for us. You can also say, can you replace all of the CSS with Tailwind instead? Great. Then you can see that it didn't work. It looks like it used the wrong URL for the Tailwind CDN. But at least this was correct. Okay, that is the wrong URL for the Tailwind CDN. Maybe we can try to fix this for us. Nope. This is also not correct. Okay, let me copy this. You can see that it actually did use the correct URL first, but it didn't use the correct way to insert this. Can you use instead and include it as a script? Okay, so that looks better. Perfect. Maybe we want to set the background color for the menu. Can you set the background color to a blue and green color? Let's see what we get then. Perfect. Okay, the menu is a little bit, you can see that it actually set this on the background color for the website and for the body and not menu. Can you create a nav element on the top instead of the whole body, and below the menu add a simple hero section? So as you can see, you can just keep asking this to build out the website, and once we just get started it will be a little bit easier, because then you can start to fiddle with the smaller stuff. So here you can now see that we have a background color on the body, we have a navigation which is blue, and a hero section. And then we can say, for example, can you make the title in the hero section much larger? Perfect. You can also see here what the script actually did, or the assistant actually did. The title in the hero section has been made larger. Can you remove the background color for the body? Nice. Okay, so now we can just keep adding more stuff to this. Adding an image generator. All websites include at least a few images. Let's modify our script to include an image generator. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code and find the assistant.gpt. So we need to modify this. We need one more tool called Image Illustrator. So Image Illustrator. This is a tool that we're going to create. Below here we can say, when you're asked to generate an image, insert the URL directly in the code instead of downloading it. Okay, so now we need to create the tool for this. So add 3 dashes, that's how you start a tool in GPTScript. Set the name, which should be Image Illustrator, which tools this should use, and that is github.com/gptscript-ai/image generation. Then here we want to add a description for what this does, based on a command generate an image. And we want to accept an argument which is the same as up here, so just args command the command to base the image on. And then we can here specify what this is supposed to do. You are a graphic designer. Come up with a prompt based on the command and generate an image. Only return the URL for the image and save. Okay, so hopefully we don't have to do anything more here. This should now call a remote tool called image generation, which has been created by GPTScript, and this again then calls a remote tool called DALL-E. So let's go back to Chrome again, and then we can say here, can you generate an image of a, for example, bicycle, and put it in the top of the hero section. Submit. So since this is now talking to a remote tool, it might take a little bit longer than the other commands. Nice. So now I have an image here, put at the top here. Here you can see the URL which comes directly from DALL-E. So just like this you can just continue adding more stuff. For example, on the right side of the menu, please add 3 links. Submit. Great. Can you call the first link home, the second one about, and the third contact? Submit. And just like this you can just continue tweaking the design. You can add more stuff and you can do whatever you want actually. Let's just do one more change to this hero section. Can you set the image of the hero section on the left side and the text on the right side? Submit. Nice. So for example, now we could ask it to add spacing between these, space on the side, etc. It's sort of just up to your imagination what you can do. You can also ask the script to make the menu mobile friendly or the whole page mobile friendly if you want to do that. You can ask it to include JavaScript so you can toggle the menu, etc. So based on the few lines of code you can see here, it's very cool what you can achieve using AI. And now you should have an awesome little coding assistant that you can actually use to be more productive. You can instruct it to add more content to the page. You can instruct it to create texts for you, add more images, generate the logo, add a footer, etc. So it should only be just your imagination that sets the limit. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.